Hey Savvy people, it's Savvy Nick here, and today we are going to debug a C++ program which was compiled using a Makefile in Visual Studio Code. The compiler and the debugger configuration can be used through Visual Studio Code natively, but this is a lackluster method when you have a large program that requires the compilation and linking of multiple objects. That's why we've been using a Makefile with our project to do the compilation, but of course that also causes some issues with using the native debugging tools in Visual Studio Code. So we'll learn about how to make Visual Studio Code and our debugger work seamlessly together using a Makefile that compiles a C++ program on Linux. So I have this simple list program in front of me, which is a program that we've been working on throughout this whole entire series. What I'll do is I'll put a link to the GitHub repository in the description below if you want to go ahead and use this project. Of course, you can use any project with the Makefile that you have as well in Visual Studio Code. First thing I want to do is go to the debug button over here. If you see this little bug, you can click on that, and this is where we can run our debugger from. Assuming you haven't already created a debug configuration in Visual Studio Code, let's go ahead and start here. Also, if you're new and stopping by to watch a programming episode today, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. So let's go ahead and click on the create a launch.json file. This will create a new debugging configuration for us. And as you can tell above, it's asking us to select an environment. So we want the C++. I'm going to use the GNU debugger in order to debug with today. So as you can tell, that's one of the choices here, GDB or LLDB. And once you click that, you'll get an automatically generated launch.json file for the debug configuration. So the first thing we want to do here is change the program key value pair up so we can go ahead and launch our file. And since it already has an example for us, it actually has enter a program name for example, and then it has a workspace folder, so the current workspace that we're working in, / a program that they've compiled called a.out. Well, that's not the name of our program, but we can make use of this. Let's just go ahead and get rid of everything in front here. We'll keep the workspace folder. And now instead of a.out, our program is called simple list. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and put in here. Also, our program, if you haven't been following along, does require a username as an argument. So we can actually type in multiple arguments here as another key value pair of a. So I'm going to go ahead and put in SavvyNick as a username that I'm going to pass into my program at the beginning. And that's really all the changes that I need to make in here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure to save this, and then I'm going to go back to my program because it will take just a little bit of editing in order to make sure that we compile the debug symbols. Instead of just executable code, we need those debug symbols in order to be able to debug the program. So in order to make that change, I'm going to go to my Makefile. And then I'm going to take a look at my compiler settings. It says here that it can be customized. If you need help setting up the Visual Studio Code environment, make sure to watch the first video in the series, and to set up a Makefile that can compile the code, watch the second video in the series. Again, I also have a Git repo available on GitHub, so you can reference the project as the episodes have progressed. So in order to go ahead and build with the debug symbols, we need to actually add a new switch. You can see here that we have two switches, the dash wall and the standard. We're using C++ 11, which is the version of C++ that we're currently using. I'm going to put a space here, and I'm going to add a dash G. This will make sure that we compile the debug symbols and the program can be debugged. And that's really all we need. So let's go ahead and make a save here. Otherwise, you might get some errors trying to launch your program in debug, so don't forget this step. And now after we've saved this, we can go ahead and go back to the debugger, and let's go ahead and click on that. And we have, if we click on this drop down, it says a GDB launch. So that's the current selection. If you have multiple debuggers or configurations, you can select from this drop down, and then you'll be able to hit the run button in order to start debugging. So if we've successfully set everything up correctly, I believe we should be able to start debugging at this point. So I'm going to go into the debug console just to make sure that we get some kind of messages from the debugger. And I'm going to hit the run button. So here we go. We got an error. It says that our simple list program does not exist. Well, that makes sense because we haven't compiled it yet. So let's go ahead and cancel out. I'm going to go back into the terminal. If you need to get into terminal, you can always hit terminal, new terminal. And in here, I'm going to do ls just to see what I have available. And of course, I see that simple list is not available. That's because we never built it with the debug symbols. In order to do that, I'm going to have to type in make and let it build. Now you can see every object got compiled with this -G flag, which is a great thing. So let's go ahead and try again and run the debugger. If we run it this time, you can see that something's happening here, and our debug console says that the symbols were loaded successfully, which is great. Now we go back to the terminal and our program is running, which is another great sign. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in 5 to quit out of my program, which will quit out of the debugger as well. But in order to make this useful, let's go ahead and open up a CPP file so we can set a breakpoint. So in main, I'm going to set my breakpoint at the very first line in main. You can do that by going to the left-hand corner of any of the numbers here. So these are representing the line numbers. And you'll see a little red dot pop up, and as soon as you click on the line, then you can add in as many breakpoints as you want. You can also get rid of the breakpoints. Breakpoints are just where the debugger decides to stop as soon as it gets to it and allows you to make a choice on what you want to do from there. So what we'll expect is in main CPP, the debugger is going to allow the program to run, and as soon as main is called, it's going to stop on line 5. So let's go ahead and make sure that that does happen. I'm going to go back to the debugger and hit run and give it a few moments, and look at that. Now we have our first breakpoint that was made. You see this little yellow arrow around the red dot now, meaning we are currently on this line, and that line is highlighted. Once you do launch the debugger, you'll also get some tools up here in order to use your debugger. If you went ahead and made it this far, please take a moment to hit the like button. It really does help me out. And these choices up here allow you to actually use the debugger. So if you hit continue, that's going to go ahead and continue on with the program until it hits the next breakpoint. Well, since we don't have another breakpoint, it's just going to keep running the program in the normal mode. So if we select the step over option, that will step over to the next line of code. So we would expect if we hit this, we would go to line 6 here. Step into allows us to go ahead and step into function calls, so we can see what that particular function is doing instead of stepping over it. Step out allows us to get out of the function and go to the next line that's going to be ran. And then restart, of course, restarts your whole entire program, and stop completely exits out of the program as well as the debugger. So this is really the bulk of being able to debug, is stepping through your code and stepping in and out of functions to figure out where problems might lie. So currently this is a fully working program. I'm not searching for anything in particular, but let's go ahead and use these tools a little bit so we can see how things are getting populated and used. What I'll use is the terminal as well as these buttons up here of the debugger, and then the left hand side we have a few more things which I should make mention of. The first thing we have up here is our variables. This is keeping track of local variables on the stack. So you can see we have a simple list, some data, an argument count, and where our arguments are located. So these are arguments that are passed into the main function. As you can see here, we're requesting some arguments, meaning our program name as well as the program user. So if we open this up, we should see a few things here. Let's go ahead and open this up even further. And you do see in this first memory location, this is currently the directory where our program is located. So we're not going to get too deep into that. You see this is a memory address, and in that memory address we have home, SavvyNick, desktop, simple list available to us. Now this isn't drilling down quite all the way, so we can see the username as well, but you get enough information for now, and you kind of get a good understanding of what these are. So we'll check out simple list and data, since those are things we populate on the stack. And then the second thing is using watch, an expression we want to watch, perhaps in a function that exists. I know I have one called user index, which shouldn't really show up because it's currently not in the scope of things, but it says unable to create the variable object. Well, that's fine, that's expected, but maybe if we get into a function, we will be able to see what this user index looks like as we're stepping through the program. Finally, at the bottom, we have the call stack. So this is the current function being called and all the previous functions that had been called in order to be in the current function. So you can see that main is the only one currently on the call stack, so that's the only function that has been called. We'll review this a little bit as well. And then at the bottom you have any breakpoints that you currently have set. If you set more than one breakpoint, you can see that multiple breakpoints are getting populated below, so you can keep track of them easily in here. So let's go ahead and step through our program. So the first thing I'm going to do is just hit the step over function. As you see, we just went to the next line, and I'm going to hit step over again, And we can see that the argument count is now 2, and that's what it says in our variables up here in the local variables as well. So argument count is 2, which is greater than 1, so we would expect when we hit the step over to go down here to line 9, because this if statement is true. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that, and we get line 9. Now we can see that the args array, specifically the second element inside of the args array, is going to be populated into a string that's of the object simple list.name. So we would expect this name to become some type of a string here after we hit step over. So let's do that. And we can see that simple list.name is Savvy Nick. So I wonder if we go ahead over here and actually type that in, can we see that name? And I do. So I did simple list.name, it's a string, and what's that string? It tells you right here, it's Savvy Nick. So that's what we passed in to our program. So now I'm a little interested in reading my data. So right now, if we were to hit step over, we just go to the next line, and it'd completely ignore the fact that we are calling another function here. It would just do whatever this function is meant to do and save it into this simple list main list. But I'm more interested in the function, so I can always step into it. So if I hit the step into, you'll see that now we're actually in the function call. Let me make this a little smaller so we can see this a little better. And here is where we read in all of our data that's currently located in our database file. So instead of going through all of this, I'm going to actually allow this to run a little bit. And now I can go ahead and step out of this function because I don't want to run through the whole function. And as you can tell, it stepped back out and it grabbed some information because the function was actually called. And it says it found a hashtag with Savvy Nick and some items and a few more users, so that's great. Next thing we can do here is go ahead and step over once more. Now find user list is the next function call. So this function is meant to find a specific user that was specified by the console. So it's going to search for Savvy Nick and see if it can't find it. So this might be a good function to go ahead and step through as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit step into. You can also use F11. It makes things a little quicker. And to step over, you can use F10. So I'm going to start using that. So it makes things a little easier on me. So now we're getting to this first for loop, which is going to search through the user indexes of a vector in order to find a username. So I'm just going to keep going here, and the first line that we're stepping over here is going to print out the first username it finds in the 2D vector that we have, welcome, the username that we got from the user, and then in this for loop we spit out the very first name available. So something we can do as well is go ahead and add this to our watch, and we should see, okay, it's Savvy Nick is the current user in our list, as well as what's the name we're searching for, Savvy Nick as well. So we would expect this if statement to be true. So I'm going to hit step over and we'll step into this if statement. And now it's going to tell us the user has been found once we execute this line. So I'm going to hit step over and look at that. User has been found, Savvy Nick. So if we keep going through here, we're going to break out of this for loop, and now we're going to skip this if statement because we did find a user and it was true, and we're going to return that the user was found. So if we step over this and step over once more, we'll actually go back into the main CPP file so we can call our next function since find user list was ran properly. Simple list print menu is where we actually ask the user what they want to do with the list. So let's step into that one as well. And I want to kind of show you what the call stack does this time. So if we step into, you can see that main just made a call out to lists, an object. And in that object, print menu, the function was called. And as you can see, print menu is currently the one highlighted right here. So I'm just going to show you that as we're stepping through, you'll see these couts or prints to the console being displayed here in our terminal, because our terminal is still running our program for us and the debugger is just pausing it on every single line here. So I'm just going to hit step over, and as you can see, now we have the asterisk as well as now print list. I hit it again. So what if you want to skip over a few statements? That way you don't have to step one by one through everything. You can always put in another breakpoint and hit the continue button. What this will do is jump until it gets to the breakpoint that you set. So it makes things a little easier to go around if you don't want to look at a bunch of lines such as these couts that I have. And you can see everything got printed out like normal. What I want to do now is hit the step over, and now the debugger is currently in a pause state because the terminal is waiting for you to enter a choice in order to continue the program. So we can do that by saying, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to add to the list? Do we want to delete from the list, etc.? I'm actually going to do a breakpoint here on line 29 for me, print list, and I'm going to go ahead and choose that choice, so print the list. So that's whatever is currently in that user list, the console is going to print out. So if I put in 1, you can see that our program continued down to print list. I can also remove this breakpoint so it doesn't stop here every time we have to enter in a choice. So I'm going to do that. And now that it's in print list, I'm just going to go ahead and hit continue, which will allow us to run our program until we choose choice number 1 again for print list. So let's go ahead and just do that. You can see that the list got printed out to us. So we have Savvy Nick, the username, and a few items here available to us. I'm going to go back to the menu by hitting M, and I'm going to go ahead and select print the list once more. And you can see that we got our breakpoint once more up here. So the program can't run until we go ahead and hit continue or step through it with step over or step into if we want to see what this print list function looks like again. And since we've already seen it, I'm not going to do that again. The only other thing I'm going to show you, sometimes you lose track of everything and you have to be able to start back from the beginning. A very nice option here is the restart button. What that will do is restart the debugger completely, restart your program, and as you can see here, it did just that. It started at the very first breakpoint in main that we went ahead and put into our program. So the last thing I'll show you here is just some of these local objects getting filled up. So I'm going to go to actually line 12 here because line 13 won't get executed unless we exit out of this function. And I'm going to hit continue. So we got all the way down here. So now I would expect some information to be both in our simple list. So simple list is comprised of a few things here. It has a 2D vector called main list. It has a one-dimensional normal vector of strings called list, and then a name and the current user index to keep track of. So that's all part of this simple list. Data is another object which keeps track of our database and gets information in and out of it. So I'm just going to focus on simple list now. As you look through these, you can see that you can tunnel in even further to these objects. You can see main list found 3 different vectors. So you can see here that we have a vector of strings located in another vector, which keeps track of a vector of lists. So there's multiple lists available because there's multiple users, see, Savvy Bob, as well as Savvy George and Savvy Nick, just like we have in our database file. So let me just bring that up so you can kind of correlate the two together. So in our database, lists.sl, you can see that these items and usernames that we have over here have been parsed through to exist inside of this object called main list. And then we manipulate main list in order to change this database around. So debugging in Visual Studio Code is a great thing to understand and use, and can be a very powerful method to go graphically through your program and figure out how to handle certain problems or bugs that you come across. There is a little bit of fine-tuning in order to get your program to work with Visual Studio Code if you're not using all the native tools. And since I'm not using all the native tools, aka using a Makefile to compile my project, it does take a little bit of extra work to make your program be able to be debugged by the Visual Studio IDE through a debugger such as the GNU debugger. Well, that's really all the debugging I wanted to do. I just wanted to be able to give you some general knowledge of how to use the debugger as well as how to set it up here in Visual Studio Code using a Makefile to compile our program. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. Please go ahead and make sure to post them in the comments section below. Also make sure to subscribe for future videos and make sure to like this video. Thanks for watching.